Alrighty. So, you two should see the pop-up. I'm not sure how clear it actually shows up, just because of how the script is, but there's an actual, just normal typeface of the letter at the bottom there. So, we're basically going under the idea that two of you have been sent as a little mercenary group into Tribor. Essentially, the equipment and the gold that it talks about is your starting equipment. So that is what you all have on hand here. And with that, you can each take a minor healing potion and add it to yourselves. And we'll kind of progress forward with that as the kind of starting hook and equipment for this little adventure.
All right, sounds good. I just added the healing potion.
Thanks. Are we getting some gold, or we're just starting with whatever we had?
Just whatever you had. I don't intend for you guys to actually do anything with these characters where you would get to spend it. The difficulty of trying to decide how to get this little one-shot idea back towards the other group was tossed to the wayside when Colin said he wasn't going to be able to make it.
Okay, because I remember there was a one of the jobs on the job board was finding the missing court wizard, right? So I'm guessing
That is correct.
It's kind of the same.
Sharwyn Hucrele.
Wasn't there a Sharwyn in the Neverwinter Nights game?
It does sound familiar.
I've never really played any of the video games. In particular, Sharwyn is from, as far as 5th edition goes, the Tales of the Yawning Portal and the Sunless Citadel.
Okay, I mean, I haven't played it in a long time, so I could be forgetting. I think that came out like almost 20 years ago now.
There she is. She's got like some unfortunate rivets on her shirt. She was like she was like a hench person.
Right, yeah. Bard, if I remember, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things where once you enter into my game, it's my reality. It's not their reality anymore. I like took some players through, what was it, Baldur's Gate, and I'm like describing things, and he's like, is this the same Baldur's Gate from the video game? And I'm like, well, I've never played the video game, so no. I'm going off of the short little description that I have. I did not spend time to build this massive city for you, true to somebody else's vision. Alrighty, so in general, I think we have everything set. Don't expect them to be able to make it at this point.
All right, I'm ready to start whenever.
Yeah, I'm just adjusting some of my things a little bit more first. I'll be ready in a minute. Added a third monitor to my setup, so hopefully I can now keep everything that I need somewhat visible all the time, and it speeds things up as far as my usage goes, but this is the first time, so I'm still kind of playing around with how to have it all set up. Alrighty, so let's hop over to the Sword Coast map here. While would have left Neverwinter within the 10-day, as you progressed along the high road, eventually turning up the Tribor Trail on your way towards both Conyberry, and Tribor is probably about like 70 miles beyond the ruins of Conyberry. And shortly after progressing through Conyberry, you would have actually started to spot some of the signs of your quarry, who is indeed Sharwyn Hucrele, and the dragons of the Howling... I said that wrong. The Knights of the Howling Dragon. And started to track them along their way into the Neverwinter Woods to the north of Conyberry. In the process of tracking them, the two of you have found, essentially, it opens up into a glade with the ruins of an old cottage that seems to have been lost to time, maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years. It's kind of hard to tell. Little more remains other than signs that at some point it was inhabited, and that it has basically been taken back by the vines and earth as the Neverwinter woods kind of encroached over this shack in the woods, and it kind of retains its form, but it is almost wholly green as the kind of leaves start to form the entire structure, more than you actually see anything that are signs of the original structure still being there. Probably about a day or so into the woods at that point, when you do find this kind of shack in the woods, this green piece of scenery, you all kind of track beyond where apparently 3 or 4 different soldiers seem to be accompanying Sharwyn, those that you would then recognize as the Knights of the Howling Dragon. They seem to be progressing behind her much lighter footsteps along this greenway. And then eventually they seem to disappear into the earth as you all track them into this kind of open maw of stone and earth that just kind of opens into the ground, into a nice dark abyss that seems not welcoming, but it doesn't seem dangerous into itself. And we will progress with you two there at the base of this open chasm into the earth.
So Vanton will turn toward Ansel and suggest they light a torch and head on in.
Should we take a look in the cottage first, or have we passed it? I don't know if it's close or not.
You are more than welcome to step back to look through the cottage, but in essence, that would have passed you by.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm up for following them. Should we give them a minute to get ahead so they don't see us, or are we going to just try to catch their attention?
Roll a survival check for me.
I guess I don't know if they're dangerous to us or not.
Yeah, so what kind of like background knowledge would we have about these Knights of the Howling Dragon? Or do we know, have we been told why Sharwyn is missing? Or is she like kind of like deserted, or do we have any sort of idea about that?
Roll a history for me. So, Ansel, as you kind of track these things, you get the sense that these tracks are not fresh. That it's within a day or two. You remember that it rained 2 days ago and would assume that much of the earth would have kind of like the grass would have stood up taller and actually kind of refresh some of the breaks of these footsteps. But you're pretty comfortable with your ability to track people, that you have a good guess that you are not right behind these people, but are within a few days' travel of them entering into this area.
Okay, great. So yeah, let's charge ahead because they're not nearby. We haven't found them yet. We've just found their footprints.
Vanton, you are aware that the court wizard is someone who is paid, kind of a constant retainer to the Lord Protector, and serves not necessarily a daily position, but a regular position for Dagult Neverember. It is not necessarily abnormal for the court wizard to step away for a time, but it is also perhaps not normal to be sent after a court wizard as well. So there's a few different peculiarities that are somewhat surprising about this kind of mission that you've been sent on, but at the same time, it just seems like you're kind of trying to round up this person and perhaps assist them, perhaps capture them. Don't really know, other than that it's your duty to get her back to Neverwinter. And from what you can tell, she's kind of like with her adventuring party at that point.
Ansel, do you want to carry the torch, or should I?
I think maybe you should carry the torch if you're going to be in front, and I'm going to be behind you with my bow. I can't carry it. I can't fire and use a torch at the same time.
Okay, yeah. So I'll go ahead, light a torch. So like, we don't know whether they're hostile or friendly. So, I guess we'll find out when we reach them.
I suspect they're in trouble. Maybe they'll be happy to see us.
So as you kind of look into this space, it's large enough for a human in armor, but it will require that you start to crawl through the initial point where there's almost like roots of the trees overhead kind of overhanging into this little area. And it's somewhat muddy inside, a little bit to the drier aspect. There's certainly smells of like stagnant air inside of here, but you do also feel a slight pressure difference of it doesn't necessarily feel like a wind, but there is like a slow flow to the air kind of pushing over you, and it has like a little bit of a rank, almost metallic taste to it as you start to crawl inside.
Okay, is there any sort of scent that we would recognize? Like in particular?
Would you say Vanton's killed somebody in the past?
Yes.
Uh,
Like another human.
You taste the iron of blood in the air.
All right, Ansel, looks like blood's been spilled around here, so keep your eyes open.
Mostly I could just see your ass as you crawl through this hole in front of me, but okay. Got it.
So you have to crawl in single file, so it is indeed a full moon for Ansel as he crawls ahead. But it is enough light kind of scatters across his body and behind off of his armor that you're able to crawl through behind him. And after about 5 or 10 feet of crawling through this area, you kind of pop out to the other side where you see this earthen corridor of like stone and kind of mud formed up into these walls. It is not a tunnel wrought so much as it is a somewhat natural environment that seems to have been reinforced with larger stone pieces to make a little bit more true of walls. And as you two kind of look ahead, there seems to be rough-hewn stairs that start to move down 5 or 10 feet into this corridor that from your view is like the top of the corridor is roughly waist high. No, that's even too high at that point. It's almost like at the height of your ankles. Where you two start to move down these stairs, you already get a sense that this corridor is almost like going to bump up against your head, where you're going to be walking through the corridor kind of slouched, but with your torchlight, and there seems to be a bit of a glow in the area, you get a sense that it extends forth at least about 40 or 50 feet ahead of you at that point.
All right. Well, I want to keep an eye out for, I guess, for traps or things that look like they might hurt us.
So inside of the area, you see plenty of signs that the structure is not necessarily safe unto itself. It doesn't seem to be constructed by any like skilled masons or anything. But other than just kind of the rough-hewn mud and stone walls, there seems to be a growth of vines in this corridor. And other than that, not much to kind of like pique your interest of this or that.
Can I identify the vines? I'm like a expert woodsman of some sort, right?
Yeah, do a nature. I guess you could do survival. You could add the +3 instead, so a 20. I think that'd be about the same regardless. So they seem to be somewhat abnormal. You do recognize that you are underground, and it doesn't seem like a normal growth would exist somewhere that isn't exposed to sunlight. So that certainly piques your interest, that something about the vines doesn't seem, strictly speaking, proper as far as nature in the world about goes.
Ben, let's avoid those, because what grows underground where there's no sun?
Sounds like a good idea.
I think we got to get up to the corner and take a look around to see what's happening around the corner. Maybe I should go first.
So vaguely where you're at right now, you two can see probably, what is it? The vines are about 15 feet ahead of you. They kind of take up about 20 or so feet of the west side of this corridor, and you would have to go single file on the opposite side to like strictly avoid them if that was your plan. And then I think you would see maybe a vague sign that the corridor kind of moves to the east, but at this point it just seems like a long, straight, low corridor.
After you, Ansel.
Okay, I'm going to stay back to the wall, keeping my eyes on the vines, just in front of Vanton.
Give me a second here. For now, let's go more under the idea that you all have a visual of the map, but you are not necessarily on the map. So as you move forward, and you start to pay attention to the vines to your left, you take a step into one of the flagstones about 15 feet beyond these stairs. And as you start to place your weight onto the stone, let me have you make a dexterity check for me. So you start to place your weight on this stone, and you feel the slightest bit of give into it. What would you like to do?
Jump back.
So as you leap back, you start to hear a click, 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 click. What would you do?
I'd continue to go back. Vanton, we got to get up the stairs.
So you kind of progress back towards the stairs, and a few moments after you basically hit this flagstone, you like stepped into the stone, it started to give beneath your feet, and you step back as the floor drops out beside this vine. And as you kind of move forward, you hear the clicking still happening, but there seems to be almost a more like bass sound to it. Perhaps as... Let me have both of you make just an intelligence check. So, Ansel, you would recognize that this click seems like the engaging of a gear, that the initial click was to release the floor, and then the gear has actually engaged, and it's starting to reset the trap.
And the trap is the hole in the floor by the vines?
So essentially that bit of floor, I think you can see that, right? That orange?
Yep. Yeah,
so
totally.
that bit of floor dropped out as you stepped onto the most southeasterly of those squares.
And is it gone and there's a hole now, or is it coming back because it's reset the trap? I guess that's the part I don't understand yet.
You can wait a few moments. It takes about 20 or so seconds for the trap to re-engage, and the floor seems to kind of lift back into place. So you would also gather that after stepping on this floor, you have approximately 20 or so seconds to get out of the trap before it locks you down inside of it.
All right, so I could run from the first step of the trap past it and not fall in the hole.
Yeah, that sounds pretty safe to say. That with a little bit of a running start, backing up to the stairs, you should be able to clear that with next to no problem at all.
Vant, you up for that?
Don't see another way, so...
All right, I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to take a running start and try to get to the other side of where the floor dropped out.
So essentially with that, you will just have to make a... you could either do... Realistically, it's a not one check, so just like a just a d20. It doesn't really matter what your actual like dex or athletics is, because again, it's just looking for that 5% chance. And then with, I think, well, yeah, it doesn't matter, but I was going to say with heavy armor on, I was going to give 10% chance.
Good job, Vant. What kind of heavy armor are you wearing?
Chainmail. So I've got chainmail. I'd have my shield to be strapped on my back for now with the torch out, and I've got a long sword, and you see a couple hand axes on my belt.
I'm definitely standing behind you. Sounds good.
Yeah,
It
my
definitely
bad.
sort of looks very much like a typical sort of mercenary fighter, kind of grizzles, got some, bunch of sort of random scars. Uh, yeah.
I should have had you two describe yourselves to each other. But I also assume like you guys have already spent at least a 10-day together, so there is no problem with you two sharing pretty much anything that you would share at a campfire.
Cool. All right, so one trap narrowly averted. Good for us. Should we peek around the corner?
Well, if anything, nothing else, it tells us something's down here. Judging from the size of these corridors, something small.
So as you
I'm
progress
not.
past the trap, as you land on the opposite side, you would see a full sign that this corridor seems to start to go east. And as it progresses towards the east, you also see that it starts to open up into a larger room. That actually, again, you wouldn't see all of this, but right now I have it set up, so I'm not trying to hide stuff for you. But you see, as it starts to go to the side, you would again see more greenery of vines that seem uncanny for being under the.
And in terms of like tracking our prey, like do we still see their footprints? Do they fall in the hole? Is there any evidence that they skip the trap?
There's occasional signs of footprints inside of this area, but most of them start to disappear as it gets underground. And it's not, again, it's not like a finished corridor that you are in, but there are a lot of stones and like larger stonework set across that almost tile the floor of this area. It's almost like a mosaic of tiles, but very still rough stones that kind of fit together. If you are familiar with a Roman street, how they built roads, it's very similar to that, where it's almost like formed with larger stones and then the gaps are filled in with smaller stones. It's just not entirely gapless. There's definitely different areas where you see signs of their footprints.
Okay. Well, I want to peek around the corner and see, and then try to look for traps and sign and things that might hurt us.
So again, as you peek around the corner, you see the corridor goes about 15 or 20 feet to the east before it turns back to the north. You see a creeping vine that kind of crosses over the floor in that area. And you start to see the signs of a larger room that kind of opens up in this area. It's hard to necessarily tell how large it is, but the light seems to scatter into. I really like the idea of darkness going into an abyss where it starts to get like so extensive that the darkness just becomes like all encompassing.
All right. Well, I'm going to move up to the next corner and see if we can see around into this new space at all. When Vent comes up with the torch.
All right, so I'm sticking. I'll be. Then it would be sticking close by Ansel, but sort of a little bit behind him. Maybe about like 5 feet or so. He's also trying to be keeping an eye out for any signs of inhabitation as they sort of move down these corridors, sort of listening for any unusual sounds or sounds of activity as they're sort of going along.
So if we don't see or detect any kind of activity in this room, I'm going to move up because Ansel is interested to use a scimitar to sort of poke at the vines to see if they're like why they're growing in the dark.
Yeah, so as you move forward, it doesn't really seem to have too much of a sound. There's not like a full eerie silence in this area. You can definitely hear almost like the clicking of crawling bugs and whatnot that you would somewhat expect to be underground. You don't necessarily see anything moving, but there's certainly like in the otherwise silence of where you are, it's almost like a cacophony of bugs. But I don't think it would be anything for a ranger that would feel off from when you are in the middle of nature. In the same way that if you sit still in the woods start to come alive with a cacophony of bugs around you. This is a different region, being that you're underground, but is otherwise a pretty similar experience.
Okay, and then investigating the vines. There's is there anything to be learned from them?
Roll an investigation for me. You kind of poke at the vines with, you said, a scimitar?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of like poke at the vines with your scimitar. Seems to just be some sort of vine that apparently it doesn't need sunlight. Or maybe it grows through the ground and it just grows down here and it's the sunlight up above the earth. It's hard to tell, but it seems just like a vine.
Doesn't seem like it's gonna eat my foot if I step on it.
You can certainly try to step on it.
So I think I'm gonna have to. I was trying to find out in advance, but all right, I'm gonna move up to the next corner and see what else we can see in this room.
So let me have you, as you kind of like test it with your foot, let me have you roll a dex check as you kind of just like, you're like, oh, the floor's already dropped out on me. Let me see. Yeah, you kind of like poke it softly and it doesn't seem to show any signs of moving for you. You put like a little bit more weight into it and you hear like a little bit of crunch, but it doesn't feel like there's any sort of trembling. There doesn't seem to be any sound that's otherwise seems safe enough.
All right. Well, I'm gonna move up to the corner so I can see what's happening in the room.
So you're kind of in the same situation where you're using light from him behind you. So
Yeah.
this room, you would still be kind of seeing the opening of the room. You would see that it has a corridor to the west of you, to the left. But you've not yet been able to see the other signs of these. But as you kind of move forward and as Vanton kind of keeps up behind you, you guys would start to see the eastern wall moving up about like 20 or so feet before it's somewhat lost in the extremely dim light. And eventually the shadows of what seems like a large wooden chest kind of start to form up on the northeast side of this room. But it kind of makes that sort of a turn as there's a larger opening to the west of you, but most of this room seems to be covered in these vines. It seems probably about 60 to 80% of the room has these vines somewhere on them. Many of the walls, for all you could tell, the vine is actually holding the walls together in this larger span. And as you start to look up, it would be among the first times that you see that the ceiling has actually raised above your head, and it's almost 3 to 5 feet of extra space above you, like it's almost a 10-foot corridor.
Great. That feels better. So
It
it looks
seems an unusual place to leave a chest. Are there any other signs of like furniture or anything else inside in this room that we can see as we?
This room would be pretty sparse. There doesn't really seem to be any signs of much of anything, but let me have you roll. I think for you, you could do the perception. So there's a few different signs here and there of like things having been left behind from perhaps what would have been a camp. But it seems pretty clear of any sort of amenities like furniture. The chest itself almost seems to sink into the earth below it, as if its weight was pushing it down beyond the stones that it kind of sits on. And I think you would see there's a little bit less of the vine growth along the eastern wall of this area.
You want to head over there, Vinton, and take a look?
Will do. So can I check the floor around the chest before I reach it, looking for? I know I smelled blood earlier. So do I see any signs of blood stains or anything on the ground in front of the chest?
Do an investigation for me. Doesn't really seem to be any signs of blood around this chest. You kind of glance around and kind of have been paying attention. You haven't really seen any signs of an actual, like, bloody this or that in the area. The smell of blood seems to be deceptively strong for the fact that you don't actually see signs of it.
Okay, and we haven't seen any other exits from this room, right?
At
As
this
of
point,
yet?
no, it seems like this is the end of the corridor.
I'd like to investigate the chest a little bit. Maybe I don't know, maybe it's a way to the next space. If we open the door, open the top, we'll find a way to go, see where everybody went. Maybe it's full of bloody body parts.
Let me have you roll a dexterity saving throw as you open the chest. So as you open the chest, you see a ferocious creature leap out past you, trying to go for your face. You hear this as it kind of hisses at you. This thing weighs easily like 30 or 40 pounds. It's roughly the size of your chest. And as it kind of leaps out at you, you're able to dodge to the side of it. What would you like to do? Let me actually get rid of the initiative tracker.
What would I like to do after having a 40-pound animal lunge at me from out of this box?
Yes.
I would like to attack it.
Let me have you roll a... do you want to swing at it with a sword as it leaps past you and misses you?
Yes.
Or do you want to shoot it? Let me have you roll
I
an
wanna
attack with your scimitar. As you slash at it, it's already passed too far beyond your reach, and you miss as you swing past it. Vanton, what are you trying to do as you see him open the chest and just a ferocious creature leaps out past him and almost directly towards you?
So I think Vanton would, since he's got the torch in one hand, he'd kind of like stick out the torch and try to like sort of keep it away from him using that.
Like catch it with the torch almost?
Yeah, kind of just like shove the torch at it, hoping to get it to like back away.
So I think that would just kind of be a bit of an improvised weapon where you can essentially just roll a d20 and use, I would say, your dexterity modifier. So let's have you roll a d20 plus 2.
Okay, I'm not sure how to add the +2, so just roll a d20 and then just add it.
Yeah, for what it's worth, if you actually like type it in, it would just be \R 1d20 plus 2. If you click the dice roller, that can open up an actual screen that would let you add modifiers. But if you just like go over the dice roller, you just have to add it by just by knowing. So a 15 will indeed hit this creature as it takes a little bit of damage. So you will do a single damage for the torch plus, let's do 2d4 fire damage. Roll 2d4 for me. So it takes a little bit of fire damage as you hear and smell this sizzle as flesh and hair burns off of this creature.
Maybe I should trade my scimitar in for a torch.
So as I sort of hold the torch out and like burn it, do I get any better idea of, do I recognize what kind of creature it is? Does it just look like a large...
Roll a nature check for me. It seems to be a large rodent of sorts. Not necessarily sure if you've ever come across a badger before, but for what it's worth, this is a giant badger.
Okay, I think Vanton's more used to the city, so he probably would not have. I mean, he would know what a badger is. I guess he would. He's not that sort of. He's been traveling through different areas before, but he wouldn't have encountered a giant badger probably before.
Dinner.
So if you guys can click your tokens and roll initiative. All right, so what is that? I think it's back to Ansel. No, wait, that's Vanton, my bad.
Okay, so I don't know, probably given I just burned it, it's probably not going to, it's going to be attacking again. So I'm just going to now swing at it with my long sword. That would just be an 11.
So as you draw your long sword, you can either drop the torch or you can drop your shield.
Oh, I was kind of thinking like I already had my shield sort of strapped to my back once I brought the torch out because I wanted ready access to my sword.
All right, so you're on sword and torch right now. Okay.
Yeah, and I've unequipped this shield, so it should just show a 16 armor class.
Gotcha.
Which is just the chainmail.
An 11 is going to strike it. You can roll damage.
No crit, obviously.
And 8 damage as you slash across it leaves just a large gash across the left side of this creature as it kind of passes near you. That's everything that you've got for Vanton at that point?
Yeah. I guess actually it would do I forgot the +2 damage for a duelist.
All right, so
unless you're counting the torch as a weapon, because then it would just be 8. And since I have used it as a weapon, maybe I'll just skip that for now.
Let me actually read duelist real quick. I still have you with protection.
So it's if you're wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon. But I'm fine to count the torch as a weapon since I've used it as a weapon. In which case it would just be the 8 damage.
This is a good problem to have to work out.
Just roll any die for me. Evens, it dies. Odds, it's alive.
Still alive.
Yeah, we're going to go with currently, like, the torch is preventing you from using all of your abilities. So this thing is severely wounded. As you cross it with your longsword, you open a massive gash across this entire creature as your sword kind of cuts like almost from its like shoulder at the fore of its body, almost all the way back down its spine towards its tail. And let me have each of you roll a perception check. The badger is going to kind of lash out at you as it kind of strikes at you, feigning an attack as it disengages from you all, kind of giving you reason to like recoil as it attacks. It's using that action to disengage from the combat with you two, and it is going to start to run out of this room. Seemingly it's been trapped inside of that chest. And when it is partway out of the room, Vanton, you actually see as the vines in the northwest start to move, and in almost an instant, there is a vine that shoots out from that wall, and almost in just a flash, grasps around this badger. It seems to have reacted to the blood in the air, and it starts to drag the badger back towards the wall.
So I'm going to follow it a little. I want to see what if I can see as it's dragging the badger in. Like, does seem to be any sort of opening or within the wall itself?
Yeah, for now, same idea. Like most of this, let's go for describe what you're doing before you necessarily move. The badger is being dragged up to the north and the west right now. So it's actually being dragged like in that direction.
Okay.
So what are you trying to do as this kind of happens, as it runs past you?
So as it's sort of like running past me and being grabbed by the vines, I'm just more just kind of watching almost in sort of like fascination / horror as the vines reach out to grab it, and then I'm trying to see where they're trying to pinpoint exactly where the vines are dragging it to. Like, does it need to be dragging it like through the wall or into the wall or through? Like, is there like an opening maybe that we haven't spotted before?
Yeah, so that can easily be the same check, that same kind of perception that you see all this in that same instant. It is the actual vine crawling across that floor. As you kind of flash the torch out in that area, you quickly recognize that while this vine doesn't necessarily act any different when you all had stood on it before, but it's entirely likely that this entire area, the vine is actively alive, and the moment that it senses that you are a creature with life, that perhaps it's going to go after you too.
So I'll shout a warning to Ansel to keep away from these vines.
Copy that.
Anything else in that chest, Ansel?
Yeah, I don't know yet. What's inside the chest? Ansel was pretty shocked by the badger. It scared him. He didn't want to admit it, but it did. It might have been a shriek.
So as you kind of look through, there's not really much of anything inside of the chest. There's refuse from the actual creature, but other than kind of the things that have been left, there seems to be scraps of where it was trying to claw its way out of this area, but not much of anything to speak of that's inside of here.
Somebody left that thing in there, clearly, but what?
What happens if we throw your torch on that blood-sucking vine creature? Bet you won't like it.
Well, it's funny that you should say that. As you are peeking around in this chest, it is actually going to strike out towards Ansel. And I believe a 13 is going to miss your AC as a vine starts to grasp around your leg, and in the last moment, as it starts to tug at you with some pressure, it seems to drop its force and kind of with a little like click, like snap back. The pressure that it was using was not enough to constrain you as it tried to pull you.
All right, I'm going to shut the chest in case that's agitating the chest is part of the vine tree situation. And I'd like to take a step back out of range if I can.
I'd probably, if he can, Vanton would try to slash down and sever the vine that's gone after Ansel as a react.
Make a attack roll for me. As you strike down on this thing, it connects and the vine severs, but you don't really get a sense that it actually did anything to this creature. And as far as mechanics go, that was just a miss. I'm just going to throw it out there as that because it is a creature of vine, so you kind of got like the slightest bit of like the twig at the end of the growth, like the new growth kind of thing.
Got it.
I don't mean for the description. That's why I kind of stepped out of character. I don't mean for the description to make you think that that your attack is ineffective. My point was to reflavor a miss into it was just a non-damaging hit.
Right. Got it. So it's like a whole. There's this whole mass of vines, and I cut off like a little sliver of. Yeah, got it.
So it would again go back to Vanton as this thing grabs at your foot. What are you doing?
So I'm going to try and.
Oh, my bad. I said that wrong.
Yes,
Ansel. I'm getting your names mixed up still. So Ansel closed the box and like looked inside and closed the chest, and that's when it grabbed at his foot. Vanton slashed at it, and that would have been the miss, and then it's going back to Ansel.
So is there anywhere I could bury an arrow in this thing? Is there anything I can see to aim at?
You see the cluster to the northwest of you that seems to be where it is currently moving around at. So yeah, that's where you would feel perhaps this is where you should be shooting.
Okay, so I'm going to fire an arrow at it.
There's not like a noise or anything as the arrow sinks in, but there seems to be a recoil of the actual vines as they almost shudder in the moment that the arrow hits. If you guys can set it so you're rolling damage at the same time, that would be great, but otherwise roll damage.
Yeah, I don't know why it's like rolling on my sheet. I got to work on that.
I have a feeling if you go to the top right side of your screen and select the red die with the B in it, you should be able to click down on that and actually edit it. So it says, I mean, I prefer that you all roll twice for advantage and disadvantage, as well as with damage, but you should be able to set it up like that. So 8 damage as this creature kind of recoils a little bit. So it is going to strike out at, I think, Vanton on this one. And again, that's going to miss as it starts to extend vines out towards you. And then we'll take that 24 to hit, dealing another 10 damage to it. And it will go... So you would have to actually move up to it to strike out with your longsword there. Do you have a position that you want to be on that counter?
Yeah, so I guess I would... I mean, I don't know if there's any particular spot, like... I'd probably try and get to an area that's relatively less covered by these vines. But I don't...
Yeah, so it's more or less still inside of what the picture shows you. So it would be either the like northern square or the southern square, but avoiding those 3 that are like southeast, or rather, my bad, the eastern square or the southern square, but avoiding those 3 that are like south and east.
Yeah, so I probably would have gone or up to there.
Go for that one. All right, so yeah, so you can move up and strike into it with your longsword with the bulk of its mass, and then again it's going to go to Ansel to make a shot.
Okay, I'm going to fire on it again. Unless, should we set it on fire, do you think? Let's throw some oil on it. Throw a torch. Vanton, do you have any opinion about that? All right, well, I guess
I'm just worried about the integrity of this. This doesn't look like it's stable.
We have to breathe it in. I'm going to fire another arrow. Damn. Well, I did set that to roll twice, so I have a problem on my sheet. Did I hit?
11 seems to sink into it. This time you do not see any recoil from the vines. Effectively, that is a miss. This is one of those things where you're shooting into a barn wall, so it's not like you can really miss the actual vines so much as you're not necessarily cutting a vine or dealing damage to a vine. And then with that, it is going to strike out again. And this time it's going to, let's see, it's going to go for Vanton again. Rolling low as fuck, but I think a 14 is a hit on Vanton.
14 would miss me.
Damn it, I said that wrong.
I got 16.
Who's the I'm switching your names. It's the
Ansel's a hit with 14.
It's on Ansel. Because I'm rolling off of like the initiative, so an odd is telling me that it's going for Vanton, an even's telling me Ansel. So I should have been on Ansel for a 14. And then I need you to take 2 1s. 6 damage, 6 bludgeoning damage. And then you will be grappled as this creature starts to grab at you and starts to encircle you. You are effectively restrained. And then on the start of your turn, you are going to take some damage as it constricts you.
Okay, well, that's not till after Vanton's turn, right?
Yeah, so this will go to Vanton.
All right, so I'm just going to, seeing it going after Ansel, I'm just going to try to. Is there any way for me to try to? Yeah, I'm just going to attack the massive vines again. Trying to
So you
deal
can
enough
either,
damage to.
yeah, you can either attack it trying to deal damage, or you can try to help by breaking him free, depending on what you want to do.
I think for now I'm just going to attack it again with the longsword.
15 strikes deep into it, dealing. So is that with the +2? So now you should be at 14 damage, or are you?
So it would be 14, yeah, because it's just. So it's one. Well, I mean, it's up to you if you want me to roll an odd or even again to decide, or I'm fine with just having it be
as far
straight
as
for this
holding a torch
encounter.
goes. Holding a torch is useful while you are exploring, but I don't think it's the type of thing that you have to do in the 1 minute of time that a combat actually ensues. I don't see any reason that you should have to be holding the torch unless you explicitly want to not have that +2 damage.
Okay, so maybe
Like
I would have like sort of dropped the torch sort of on the ground to my right.
Yeah, so assuming you would have basically dropped the torch kind of in the ensuing attack with the badger, like after you cut the badger in two, you would have kind of dropped it with the next little moment of your time.
Okay, yeah. So in that case, it would be then a 14 damage. And would I've had the chance to sort of bring my shield out again after this combat started?
So part of where this will be a learning experience is it takes an action to don your shield. So once you basically said that you were wearing the shield on your back, it is probably not ideal to switch to your shield in the middle of combat.
Got it. Okay.
And then with that in mind, with
yeah.
your next attack, you can tell me whether you want to attack one-handed or two-handed, but most certainly at this point, you do not want to attack two-handed because you did 4 damage instead of 12.
Yeah, I'll just stick with the one-handed for this attack.
Actually, I think it already knows. It already has your +2 in there because it's doing a +5 instead of the +3.
Oh, you know what? Yep, that's. I was wondering where that +5 came from, but yeah, I think you're right. So it is just 12.
Yeah, and realistically, that makes it so you would never have a reason to attack one-handed because you basically roll a 3 to a 10 +3 instead of a 1 to a 10.
You'd have your shield would be your reason to attack one-handed.
No, I mean
right. This is I'm not wearing the shield.
Yeah, like it's always beneficial to have your shield. That's part of what I was kind of getting at before.
The opposite. I got it.
But yeah, like there's no reason with that fighting maneuver. I think that's the maneuver or the skill fighting style. There's no reason for you to ever make a two-handed attack when it's a D8 versus a D10 because you match that extra damage possibility.
Oh, right, because I have to be not wielding a weapon in my other hand, and obviously if I'm wielding a two-handed weapon. Yep, got it.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it was basically going to count that second hand as a weapon. That's an interesting twist on their part. So then it would go to Ansel.
All right, so I'm grappled.
You are grappled and restrained.
Yeah, so what are my options? Break the grapple?
Yeah, you can
use
your action to basically try to make a DC strength check to break free, or you can try to attack the creature to break free, but if you attack, you're at disadvantage.
Yeah, I'm going to try to break free. Is it a saving throw or just a strength check? Is it a strength check or a strength saving throw?
As you try to bust out of this, the vines seem to constrict and flex out as you kind of flex on it and then tighten back up, and they seem to be matching your muscle so they can hold on tight to you.
Okay, so that's my action that I can do. I have a bonus action which I didn't do earlier, which is Hunter's Mark, which I would put on this creature, concentrating on the creature for when I get to attack again.
Yeah, you can definitely Hunter's Mark it.
I think that's all I could do, Van. Sorry, buddy. I'm just a badger.
So it is going to constrict into you, dealing 8 poison damage. And let me have you make a Constitution check. So you do maintain concentration on your Hunter's Mark.
How much damage again?
Damn, I think it was 8. I don't think it matters, but it's 8 poison damage.
Got it.
And then it's gonna go to Venton.
Okay, does the massive vines look at all like I've done any sort of real damage to it?
There's certainly
If,
cut
like,
off portions of the vines, but it's not necessarily like in a dire strait.
And I'm gonna glance back towards Ansel. How bad does he look at this point?
You know, he looks scared.
All right, so I'm going to turn from attacking the main massive vines and try to slash into the ones that are constricting around Ansel. I don't know if I have to move towards him to do that.
For what it's worth, you can make an attack at them. Essentially what it will be is it will have a little bit higher of an AC on those vines, as they're like slightly more difficult to like aim your attack towards a specific thing. But if you deal enough damage to a particular area, you can cut him free or potentially reduce his AC to break free.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and do that then. I'm gonna try and get him, help as much as I can to get him free.
So let's see a roll to hit. 24 will most certainly hit, dealing 9 damage. You feel pretty confident that that's probably going to help him break free, but it does not release him immediately. And then it would go to Ansel to try to break free as he cuts you free.
Yeah, I want to break 3. Strength saving throw again?
Yep, strength save again. Yeah, so as you start to flex out, the vine that Vanton just cut free kind of unwinds very quickly off of you like a string and falls apart, and the one that's still maintaining its grasp on you seems to break free and kind of snap in different portions. As it's the only thing holding you, you are now freed.
Okay, so is that my action for the turn?
Yep, still action on that.
So I still have an action, is that what you mean?
No, it's your action to break free.
Okay, but I could move if I wanted to.
Yep, you now have your ability to move.
All right, I'm going to back off to here where there are no vines. That's it.
So it is going to lash out at Vanton. Still rolling low. It's going to miss as a vine kind of tries to wrap around him, and it just slips off of the armor, finding no purchase, and it will go to Vanton.
I'm just going to keep hacking away at it, I think. I don't know if I can. I don't know. It seems weird to try and like distract a clump of vines. I don't know how intelligent they are, but so I'm just going to straight attack.
9 ends up being another miss on it. And then it would go to Ansel.
All right, I'm going to fire an arrow at the mass of the thing on which I'm concentrating.
18 hits.
So then the hunter's mark is another
D6.
Yeah. Let me just do that over here. So I guess that's 11 damage. That was satisfying.
You start to see the first signs of a lot of the vines are actually like cut loose and essentially dead vines, like separated from the mass of the creature.
Keep hitting it, Ansel.
Well, that's my turn, so you'll have to do that.
So as you move back and release an arrow into the creature, the vines to the west of you start to come alive, and in that little box there, the vines almost start to like writhe around the ground, almost like standing up straight, and you feel as they start to wrap around your feet. Please make a DC 13 strength saving throw.
Which one of us?
Back to
Ansel.
you again.
Really? Okay. I swear I had this set up to roll twice, but it's just not cooperating.
It might also be inside of the settings of Roll20 too.
But you got the roll, right? So
Yep. And then it's gonna go to Vanton.
All right, just gonna slash again at the vines.
14 strikes it. It's definitely looking rough at that point. And it's gonna go to Vanton.
was it just Vanton and now it's Ansel?
Oh, my bad, Ansel.
That's fine. You're good about trying to use our names when you know our actual names. I'm going to fire another arrow at it.
Oh, wait, you are restrained. I need you to roll one more time. You were rolling at disadvantage.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, never mind. You were 22. You broke 3 of it. So yeah, roll your d6 for Hunter's Mark. You sink into the mass, and the creature is severely injured at this point. And it's going to lash out with a final attack at both of you. Let's see. It's going to be a 25 to hit Vanton and a 19 to hit Ansel. I believe that will hit each of you.
Yep.
So
Definitely
each of you are going to be grappled and restrained, and it is going to do.
Can I use my parry reaction on that?
You most certainly can. So it is doing 13 damage to Vanton, and it is doing 9 damage to Ansel. So your parry reduces it by, I think, a D10 or a D8 plus 2.
Right. Is that 8 already, or the 13? I mean, or do I roll now to reduce the 13?
No, you actively roll, like when you use the maneuver die, you roll that die. So roll a d8. So you'll reduce the 13 by 5, so you'll take 8 damage. And then Ansel, you'll take 9.
Got it.
So each of you are grappled and restrained. And then it's going to go to Vanton. And again, this thing is severely injured. It is no longer a question of try to break free. Try to hit it and kill it.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep as well as I can attack it again.
So it's at disadvantage, so let me have you roll twice. I think yours is set up for it, but...
Yeah.
AC is 13, that's going to miss. And then to Vanton.
Ansel, yeah, I'm going to attack twice. So I get my disadvantage.
Will hit, and it will kill.
Satisfying thunk into the trunk of a tree.
Yeah, and that would be the first time that you actually hear the sound of the actual, like, wood. It's really like a strong purchase as you hit into it, and the final arrow sinks in. Let me have Ansel roll a D100 for me. So I'm not sure if you paid attention to how many arrows you shot, but you can recover 50% of the arrows that you shot.
Yeah, it was like 5. So I'll recover 2. Thank you.
You can recover 3. That's fine.
Okay. Well, I am pretty messed up. I don't know about you, Vanton. How are you doing?
So I think after the combat's over, I'm going to leave the torch for its ground and just sort of draw my shield.
Casting good berries is always viable. I would not eat a good berry while you're taking the short rest, though.
Well, I'll cast it and I'll give you 5 of them, and I'll hang on to 5 of them. So we're good. I thought I had to roll to figure out how many we would get, but if it's always 10, that's great.
Yeah, good berry is a fucking awesome spell.
All right, so you have 5, I have 5. We took a short rest. There we go.
It's going to use one of my hit dice during the short rest. Looking for that on my sheet. I'll just roll a D then.
if you go into your hit points, no, it's under short rest. If you click on short rest, you can click to roll the hit die and then just mark it off and then click to take the short rest.
Got it. Okay. And then I'll gain back my superiority die that I used. All right.
All right, so we're in a room with a dead vine and an empty chest.
So now that the vine is dead, can I inspect the area around it, behind it, to see if there's anything other than just more wall?
And is there a reason I'm in an orange box on the map?
Oh,
That was from the.
That was where it animated the vines to the west of you.
Copy that.
When they animated, was that like just a one-time thing, or do they still look like they're sort of?
That was just one of its abilities.
Okay.
Did that thing have a name, Mara?
As far as meta knowledge goes, that was a toned down assassin vine. I was basically making most of its rolls on the fly to not overpower you all, because that's a CR3 creature that really would require at least 3 or 4 players at your level to be a pretty good fight. But with a single action each turn, it's a little bit more evened, and then I tone down its actual damage dice.
Cool.
But it is essentially a creature from the Tomb of Annihilation. But they're a cool creature because that's one of the things. I feel like people fight plants kind of less than almost anything. Most of the time, people have you fighting actual living things.
I never heard of an assassin vine before. That's kind of a cool monster, just attracted by blood. I like that.
Or that was purely just how I introduced it.
Either way.
I originally had this room set up where it was going to be the assassin vine in there, and then I was like, you know what? I feel like a badger inside of that chest is a really cool way to do this. And I wanted to see how that would kind of play out. And you were 1 hit point short of killing that badger, so I was like, this is the perfect way to reintroduce the assassin vine that was going to be what this room was. Have it consuming the meal that you basically put out on a platter for it.
Yeah,
if we hadn't hit the badger and it just ran away, would the assassin vine have stayed dormant?
You will never know, but no, it would not.
I was 99% sure that whatever was in that chest was bad, but just couldn't resist. Had to open it.
Yeah, I didn't even mean to open it. I wanted to examine the outside of it, but then I was opening it, and that was going to happen anyway. So yeah, that's fine.
I felt like you said, I'd like to look at the chest and open it, something to that sort, and that's why I took it there.
Yeah, it's totally fine. It was going to happen anyway. Okay,
but
so
essentially the chest was indeed a trap. It was just a badger put inside of a chest.
Right. Yeah, so I guess I'd be inspecting the area sort of behind this clump of vines, looking to see if there's anything unusual, any sort of opening. I mean, we still haven't seen any exit from this room, but obviously if somebody put a badger in a chest and there's the trap that we got past, obviously something's been down here.
Let me have you roll an investigation. And what are you doing while he's looking around, Ansel?
I'm looking around.
What are you looking for? Describe it for me.
I'm examining the wall that's near my character which I think it was the east wall, to see if there's any way out. It seems like there's some aberration in the drawing that might lead us out of there.
Cheater. Yeah, I noticed that I drew that box a little bit too large. But I already described that wall had less vines on it, and that was supposed to be your clue that the eastern wall is where you need to investigate. So as you investigate into that wall, you do spot that there seems to be a different, kind of scratched outline into this wall. And it seems like there's signs that the vines have been cut away to maintain the wall being.
Oh, like maybe this is where Sharwyn and her crew went.
So I obviously wouldn't have seen anything.
Yeah, you guys didn't find shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I rolled a 1 too. Also.
Yep. You have no clue how to open it. You just know that there is indeed a door there.
Should we knock on it, maybe?
So now that we know there's a door there, can you I'm gonna try and listen at it, or is that that can be part of the investigation check from before too? If you don't want me to roll again,
You can listen at it with a perception check. And Ansel knocked on it.
Yeah.
Just roll a d20 for me. More or less, it's a performance to let me know how hard you knocked. You don't really hear anything from the other side. As you knock on it, you certainly confirm that there is a door to it, as it has like a hollower sound than you would expect from like the stone structure that kind of makes up this more complete of walls in this area. But you two kind of look around after a few moments, and you don't see like a particular way to open the door, but you do see a sign that perhaps it actively slides out of the way, that you would have to try to strength through it.
So we can try to slide it. Should we do that together, Vinton?
yeah. If you want to, I guess you can maybe help.
Sure, I'll help.
Yeah, so for what it's worth, let me just have each of you do a roll. Unless, wait, Ansel, do you have a crowbar?
Probably wouldn't actually matter with that roll anyway. Would have been higher, with or without advantage.
I have some carpenter's tools, which I think should include a cat's paw, which is akin to a crowbar, but I don't have a crowbar. I have a shovel.
Yeah, so Ansel, let me have you roll a strength check. Catch that, Larry? Can you roll a strength check for me?
Sure. I didn't catch it, sorry.
All right, so working as a team, you two are able to open that up. As you start to kind of push at the door, you find a little bit of purchase in one corner. And as you all kind of slide it to the side, you see the locking mechanism that seems to be like the latch that's kind of hidden off in that southern wall. And you have to like snap that little portion to kind of release the door, and you're able to slide it all the way out and reveal a hall that opens up about 30 or so feet to the east of you all.
So if you want, I'll take the lead, Edsel.
Yeah, I can take the torch, and yeah, I think I can take the torch just as well as you can and throw it down and pull my bow out when needed, right?
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, you can hold the bow in one hand and the torch in your other.
I think that's what. And you want to try it that way this time, so you can have your shield out.
Do feel safer with the shield out.
Yeah, do it. I got it. So
Yeah,
I got the bow, one arrow in my left hand. I got the torch in my right hand, and I'm going to drop the torch when it's time.
You always have a free action as well, where drawing your arrow is the free action, drawing your sword is the free action while you're attacking. So it's not something that you are incapable of doing either way like that. You don't suffer at all to not have your sword drawn while you're walking around.
All right, so do you still want to go first now that you're shielded up and I've got the torch, or what?
Sure. I can take the lead.
So again, like more description than actually moving your miniatures. As you two kind of pass the torch between you all, you would notice that this hall seems to be more finished. It actually seems to be finished in a complete masonry and much more like kind of a traditional dungeon style, where somebody seems to have created this area not to hide where they go, but to hide like the nature of what they do there. It was meant to seem like a dead end, and that this seems like an actually like properly finished underground corridor. And you see like a faint kind of sparkling across the roof of this kind of corridor as it extends out. There's just little flashes as you pass the torch between each other. You just see these like flashes from the ceiling.
We try to inspect what they are. They look like, I don't know, like crystals or something artificial, something placed there. Is there any chance we can try to inspect them?
You could do an investigation or a nature check, depending on what you want to kind of do there.
I'd like to do an investigation or help you do one.
I'm not. Vanton probably wouldn't know much about nature, so I would do an investigation check.
So it seems like they've just kind of used perhaps bits of gems inside of the masonry that they've created. They're not like large gems of any substantial size. None of them would even kind of even appear to be substantial enough that you could like pick it out with a dagger. They just seem to be like a sparkle into whatever they've used to create this like cement type masonry.
There's some mica in the concrete, maybe. It's very fancy.
Okay, so Vanton obviously in his chainmail is not particularly stealthy, but to what extent he can, he's going to try to quietly move down this corridor.
So you can roll a
Maybe
stealth check
checking.
at disadvantage. And what are you checking as you move forward?
Kind of the floor in front of me, trying to hopefully avoid any similar traps to the one we passed before with the falling away wall. Given that obviously whatever created this masonry has been, we've already found 2 traps.
Roll a dexterity check for me. It's just straight from your dex skill. Yeah.
Oh,
So you're trying to be light-footed like you've seen Ansel moving forward. You kind of saw him doing it, but very quickly you feel the strain on your muscles as your body is not used to like extending itself out but not setting down. So you find it quite difficult to actually try to be light-footed, but you feel like moving forward that you're doing what you can to not put all of your weight immediately onto a stone as you step forward. And then you said Vanton's going to lead. How are you following him, Ansel?
In the same, I'm going to follow like in his footsteps, 10 feet back.
Alrighty, so you two can kind of move forward like that. You don't have to be there. I was just moving you into the 10-foot back position.
You probably can't see around the corner because I have the torch, right?
Yep, if you're holding the torch and you guys are up against that wall, it's not really going to cast around until you basically move to where you're at there. You can kind of like hold it past that area. And you see signs that this corridor continues on, and then it passes towards the east. And as you kind of round the corner there, you actually hear just a soft bell. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, that sounds ominous to Vanton's ears.
Oh, I thought it was pleasant.
Can we pinpoint which direction the bell is coming from? Is it seem to be coming from like?
Make an Arcana check. It seems to be in this corridor, but as you kind of glance around you, it doesn't really sound any stronger to the north. It doesn't sound stronger to the west. It seems to be almost present on you.
Can we investigate or right around us and see if we've tripped something?
You can do an investigation check. Let me have you couple that with an Arcana. There's some sort of metallic substance that you seem to have kind of like cracked a piece of copper on the ground. It's hard to tell why that would ring a bell.
I think there's some sort of magic stuff going on that I don't understand. But
Or anything?
We belong to some people.
I mean, for what it's worth, neither of you rolled high enough to recognize the alarm spell. So you don't really know that it's magic.
Yeah, so I would have known that was an Arcana check. I would have just...
Exactly, yeah. Like, a 12 was enough that you would have spotted the copper, but I wanted an Arcana check to know whether I can tell you that you would recognize why it's a piece of copper. And that's part of why I did it like that, is... the Arcana check from Vanton... the Arcana check from Vanton was hearing a spectral bell that seems to be present almost inside of your head would have told you the alarm spell if you were close enough to it. And then Ansel was actually looking around and you spotted the material component of the spell. So neither of you would really know that it's a magical spell that really cast that bell.
If it is an alarm, we probably best off not standing still for too long.
Yeah.
So maybe Benton would continue on down the corridor, sort of careful, trying to move carefully, shield out.
I'll hold the torch up nice and high.
So as you kind of progress down the corridor, you actually hear some footsteps to the east of you, and then all of a sudden you hear a little bit of a cackle, and then you hear as it seems like something hits the wall about 10 feet to the east of you.
I think I'm going to step up next to Venton and then drop the torch on the floor in the hallway.
Is there anything sort of like, so when you say the thing hits the wall to the east of me, is that like are sort of where are we on now on the map? Is that like north is to the north, south is to the southeast, so that it would have hit the wall?
Yeah, pretty much universally, I will always have maps oriented. North is up and east is to your right.
Yeah, so like hit the wall like where Ansel's standing now.
Yeah, essentially it's like about 5 or so feet from where he stood. Yeah, he's got a little bit higher passive perception, but for what it's worth, both of you would have heard something relatively kind of squishy, almost, kind of seem to hit the wall.
Okay, so I'm going to, I'll probably turn and look at the wall behind me.
That was crazy
trying to
bad
see what
numbers for you two. So as you kind of look over, you see a small, like, grouping, it's almost like a gray substance of very fibery, like spindlish almost. It seems to just be a clump in the corner of the ground, and as you kind of like focus in on it, your senses start to actually allow you to start to hear what it really was, as you hear a buzzing in the air. And each of you are going to start to get stung. So I hit Banton with 4. So you are going to take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 poison damage, and 3 hit Ansel. 5, 6 poison damage. As you begin to get stung by bees, hornets, some sort of flying, buzzing creature is striking out at you. It feels like it's inside of your armor. You see just a swarm all about you, but at present, you are not in a safe spot.
Just try and sort of, whatever's ahead of me can't be worse than what's on me right now, so I'm just going to try and dash and get out of
as you dash around that corner, and again, this doesn't necessarily preclude Ansel from moving forward as well. Although, wait, did you say you dropped the torch?
I dropped the torch right there.
So...
Are the bees behind us?
Right now, essentially, the bees are like directly between the two of you, where their nest was thrown into the wall.
Which is basically where I dropped the torch.
Yeah, so that's about the amount of light that you all would have, is roughly covering this hallway, where you see that there seems to be a corridor that leads up to the north, as well as a corridor that leads off to the east. So as Vanton starts to run away, run past the bees, not necessarily running away, my bad for saying it like that, but as Vanton starts to run past the bees or these flying insects, what would Ansel do?
I don't even know how to attack bees. Like, how do you fight back against bees? I think I would just follow Vanton.
Roll a wisdom check for me. Both of you can roll that, actually. Just add this because I think. So I would say, for what it's worth, Vanton recognizes that the fire is probably a really good start, and picks up the torch. Now, you can certainly hold the torch, or you can pass it to him, but at present, I'm going to basically throw it out there that the torch at present is probably the best source of preventing yourselves, as you can kind of wave it to prevent yourself from getting burned, while also sort of keeping them from continuing to sting at you.
All right, so Vanton has the torch now in his hand. I'm going to run up to the corner behind him and see if I can see where this thing came from and who threw it.
So each of these corridors seems to open up into a larger room where, again, the light sort... Oh, wait, are you guys in Fog of War? No, that's a different color of the stone, how I designed it. Yeah, so as you kind of round that corner, you still see into the darkness of these rooms, but each of these corridors opens up into a larger room. Can't really see what. It would be enough that you still, like, very subtly perceive these sparkles across the roof of the corridor.
All right, well, I'm going to pull out a torch as a free action. I'm going to run up to Vanton and I'm going to try to light that torch on my action, so we each have a torch to fight the bees with.
Yeah, that's perfectly acceptable.
So now next to Vanton, I also have a torch to try to, I guess, like, we're probably discouraging the bees from attacking us when we have torches in hand.
Yeah, so as the bees, like, kind of continue to swarm about you all, one gets through on Ansel and does a single damage of poison damage to you. But as you both kind of strike at them with the torches, it seems like, besides that one strike at you, seems like you've pretty much gotten past the bees. As far as I'm doing them mechanically, the ones that hit you basically did not die, and they have a chance to strike again. So after a moment, you may get attacked by that one bee that still remains, but you have otherwise kind of passed that mechanical trap. Like, mechanically past that trap.
All right, north or east? Ansel.
North.
Thanks.
After you, Vanton, but I would say north. What do you think?
Yeah, so Vanton, I guess, would have he'd have the torch in one hand. He'd still have his shield out, I guess. And then lead the way up north. He'd probably be distracted by trying to get away from the bees, so he might not be paying as close attention to, like, traps and stuff.
As you kind of progress forward, you see a large bookcase across the northern wall. There seems to be a lot of scrolls and different books kind of, like, scattered across the ground as you kind of run forward to get away from the bees. But other than that, it seems kind of clear for your moving forward.
I'm gonna follow, and I think I need to cast healing on myself.
So yeah, as you kind of run forward, you can definitely place a heal into yourself. And let me have you do... I guess as you run into the room, let me have the two of you do a perception check.
I'm not perceiving anything today.
I'm very consumed with the running away from the bees, not so much with where we're going.
Yeah, the bees are definitely distracting. As the two of you pass into this room, you would basically get into the center of it before kind of slipping on the books, kind of recognizing that this room has been tossed and turned up. And it will only be then, as you kind of, like, spin around to look, that you will see that you are at present surrounded by 6 kobolds. I guess I should say 6 tiny little creatures about waist high that have long extended snouts that seem very much dragon-like, and I don't think it's too much to say that a adventurer / mercenary would understand what kobolds are.
Oh, or a ranger that has kobolds as a favorite enemy. I would know lots about them because I hate them.
As we see them surrounding us, do they look like they're preparing to attack us? Do they have weapons out, or
I think it's too much for you to actually get too much of that impression at first. You can start with an insight check at that point, and let me see if this last bee does anything. Nope, it's gonna miss and kind of die off. At present, the kobolds look pretty devious. They seem to be kind of joking, and kind of like giggling to themselves, but they don't necessarily look like they are prepared to attack, but they also don't look unprepared.
Okay, and at this point, I still got the torch in my hand. The sword is sheathed, the shield and the torch out. I think Vanton would just be like, the bees were those bees were a nice trick. We're not looking for trouble from you.
What language are you saying this in?
I only know Common and Dwarvish, so it would be Common.
You would see as one of the creatures are... You're going where you're not meant to be. Why are you here? Bees are the least of your worries.
We're looking for our friends who came in before us. Perhaps you've seen them, a woman and several men with her.
Friends, you say? Why don't you travel with your friends? Why do you have to look for them? Are you bad at what you do that you've lost them?
Clearly we are. Perhaps you'll take pity on us.
What do your friends look like? What would you give us to find them? What do you have? Do you have shinies? Do you have any dragon's teeth?
I'm fresh out of dragon's teeth, but I have a few shinies. If you can tell us where we can find our companions.
Kobolds are expensive. How much will you pay us?
I can give each of you one shiny, but that is all I have.
See him like counting on his hands for a few moments. One is not a very high number.
What if I make it 2?
It's like in the process of raising 2 fingers. Two, yes, 2 each.
Perfect.
And what are you handing them?
So I'm assuming we have, when it says we have 10 gold pieces, that means we have 10 actual gold pieces rather than, or is it like we could have a mix of like gold, silver, copper? I was not sure how that works.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I would say normally the exchanging is not an issue. But you all would have been paid in gold pieces, so I don't see a reason for you to necessarily have an array at this point. So if all you have on you is gold, I would say you're paying in gold right now.
Yeah, so I think I would just, I would be handing over a gold piece, but I would sort of like start to hold it out and then kind of like pull it back and like, but you need to tell us where our companions are, and we don't want to deal with any more of your bees or badgers or anything else you might have.
You found the badger!
It was funny, actually.
The badger was my idea.
That was pretty good. You did a good job on that.
2 shinies each, and then we show you forward.
So I think I have 6 silver. That was my plan, was to give 6 silver.
So they will each take a gold and a silver each?
Yep, I've just got gold, so.
I only had 5 coppers. So.
They collect those forward, or they collect those up together. We will show you, but it's not safe. You're bad at keeping track of your friends, but there's definitely dangerous shit ahead. So, maybe stay close, but be prepared. Gargoyle, it eats people. And by people, I mean kobolds. So we don't really want to get close to it. But you can go there. Alright? You guys investigate the gargoyle. And we'll be back around, but like, we'll show you that way. No more traps. You paid us shinies.
Great.
Very well. Is there any way to avoid the gargoyle?
We're pretty sure the gargoyle is how you get through the next door.
That last door was easy. You just had to know where to press the button. This one's not so much. It's got some, crazy squiggles. We don't really know what they mean, but they say something, and, that's kinda how we're pretty sure your friends got through the next door.
I'm gonna do a quick take a look at this this bookcase behind us. Is there anything interesting there?
You
We
can do
might
an
need.
investigation check.
And I'd be maybe asking the kobolds, did you two threw all these books about?
We assume you're friends. They seem to be messy. It's kind of rude.
I must have been looking for something. Sort of whisper that to Ansel as he's checking the books.
And what are you looking for while you go through there, Ansel?
Any books that seem valuable or jump out and catch my attention. Maybe some, like if it's all, the whole bookshelf is a disarray, if there's only a couple of books left, I'd want to see if any of them were a lever or a trigger or something.
I don't know if Vanton can also sort of start looking through the books, he'd be looking for something that looks like it's his thinking is that Sharwyn, maybe, if they might have been looking for something to help them pass the gargoyle, so he's going to be looking for the books, looking to see if he sees any like and I guess anything that looks like it's talks about a gargoyle or talks about like a trap or something like that, if he can also spend the time to do that.
So you can roll an investigation check as well there.
You're looking for a book that says Guide to Traps in this dungeon on it? Like on the
Assuming
spine.
like these books were all written about, he's thinking that's what Sharwyn was looking for. So maybe if he can, and if they went through, then maybe they found it. So maybe we can find it too. But his investigatory skills are subpar, shall we say?
I'd like to find the operation manual for the dungeon, but seems hopeful.
I don't remember how you first described it, but it already gave me an idea for what you found, so it's already too late on that one. And you wouldn't be able to find it anyways. But as you two kind of go through here, you do see everything seems to be kind of scattered about. There's not too much remaining left on the actual shelves. You get a pretty good idea that whoever was in here was not necessarily like fully focused on any specific topic. They seem to be rather well versed on everything that they were up at reading. So there's no like singular topic to things, but you do notice that most of what is scattered across the ground is almost like various bits of like poetry and sort of reference material of kind of like both creatures as well as things like around the world. So there's like a weird focus of what seems to have been pulled off of the shelves and scattered across the ground of creatures, poetry, and like worlds. And that's kind of what you would gather there. As you're kind of flipping through things, you do see, this would be Ansel, as you're kind of flipping through things, you do see a piece of parchment that's kind of folded up inside of one of the sheets. And it, as you open it up, seems to be a scroll used to kind of charm an animal. So you can write down for yourself a scroll of animal friendship.
Great, I'm into that.
But other than that, the kobolds are kind of like looking at you curiously, like,
this might be why you're bad at finding your friends. They're definitely not inside of there.
Wise words, kobold.
Yeah, pretty wise.
So,
and you see as one of them like nudges his friend, and he's like,
What the fuck does wise mean?
all right, so Vanton obviously didn't find anything in these books, so he's just going to glance towards Ansel and say, guess we'll see what this gargoyle's about.
Yeah, let's do it. That sounds right. Right behind you.
I guess we'll follow the kobolds. into this room.
So as you all kind of pass towards and into this room, you see that there are two not cauldrons. Damn, why can I never think of this fucking word? Two tripods holding up like brass bowls that have like a flame kind of burning inside of them that lights up the northern end of the room. There seems to be almost an outline of a large door across that side, as well as this gargoyle seems to be staring straight ahead into this doorway. And the gargoyle seems to be made of stone, of like a glass like black nature. It seems almost shiny and it flickers with the light of your torches. And on its pedestal, can't see from that distance, but there appears to be some sort of writing on it.
And the tripods behind us, are they? They're lit, right?
Yeah, the like cauldron that the tripods are holding up, or like the brass bowl that the cauldrons are holding up, are lit.
Is there anything on the opposite wall in between them, or is it just a blank wall?
You see the outline of the doorway, of like an arched doorway, but it's sealed shut. If you go forward to investigate it, it's like a faint outline, but otherwise inside of it, for all you could tell, it seems like somebody carved the resemblance of a door, but there is no door. There's no like gap in it. It's just the slightest outline like etched into the stone.
All right, so we're gonna have to talk to the gargoyle. Can you read what it says there, Ben?
So Vanton's going to first turn to the maybe one of the kobolds, whichever one was speaking before, and say like, what happens when the kobolds go near the gargoyle? The gargoyle eats them.
Everybody who's come in here to read it, they've never come back. So we've kind of never really gotten this close before.
Where do you guys sleep?
In our homes?
Is that not here in this labyrinth?
Oh, no. We're not from here. We're actually just trying to find our dragon. Somebody stole our dragon. You don't have our dragon, do you? You don't look like you've got a dragon on you. You're kind of too small.
What's it look like?
Well, it's big, and it's white.
And you see his like he holds out his arms like as wide as they go, but you can tell he's like trying to stretch further, like he's trying to like show the size of it, and quickly realizing like I don't think my arms go wide enough to show the size of this dragon.
Well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for it and bring it to you if we find it, or bring you it to it if we find it.
Might be
I
pretty
can-
good.
I can try to read that writing, but I don't know much. Only other language I know is Dwarvish.
That seems possible, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to try to read it too.
We just don't really want to get any closer than this. It doesn't really seem, it seems fishy that people disappear when they come in here.
Well, I think we're going to investigate the gargoyle and see if we can read the language, or at least Ansel will do that.
So let me have Ansel roll a investigation, and then do it with a dexterity check. So as you kind of like peek forward towards it, there's a small script written into the base of this, but like the almost like black sheen of this stone makes it really difficult to read. And as you kind of like lean in to get a closer look at it, it's very difficult to make out, but the words seem to be in a common language. And you see something, it's hard to make out. It takes you a few minutes to actually like really look into. And as you're kind of coming about to a conclusion of what it is, you start to mutter to yourself, "Come at night without being fetched. We disappear by day without being stolen."
Would Vanton have heard him muttering this?
That's essentially him like muttering to himself. It would be more like internal thought of hearing yourself.
Got it. Okay.
Now, what are you doing while he takes a few minutes doing that?
So I'm thinking if this gargoyle is as dangerous as the kobolds have been saying, there's no sense in both of us getting too close. So he's kind of waiting to see what Ansel can make out of the gargoyle. He's kind of just holding back for now.
He seems unable to read it. I played that wrong. I should have made you actually act before giving him an answer there with rolls that low. So if he seems incapable of translating it, would you still wait back?
Oh, in that case, if it seems like he's not able to make it out, I would just probably move up to and do the same thing.
So you can try as well. So you would very
Wow.
quickly recognize what is happening here. And you let me have you make a dexterity saving throw.
Oh, that was that second.
Nope, that
was a
dexterity
check, sorry.
Yep, dexterity saving throw. So as you move forward to start to read this thing, you very quickly recognize the wording. We come at night without being fetched. We disappear by day without being stolen. What are we? And as you start to read this and you kind of say it to yourself, you start to see that the shimmer in this stone isn't from your torchlight. The gargoyle is moving, and you push Vanton and Ansel, both of you kind of, you throw Ansel back as this thing strikes out at you. A black appendage almost like forms off of this creature as it reaches out trying to grasp at Ansel. And you like throw him back right beforehand. And I need you guys to select your tokens and roll for initiative.
But I wanted to tell you the answer to the riddle.
I think we won't have time until our turn comes in the combat.
Vanton, how do you react?
So Vanton's going to call out stars. The answer is stars. As he drops his own torch, draws his sword, and he will. He said there's like sort of like this weird appendage striking out at Ansel.
Yep, like a black, like I feel like a pseudopod is a single like gooey appendage almost reaching out.
Okay. I think I will. So after saying what he thinks is the answer, he's going to try and strike out at the appendage going after Ansel. If he has to, I guess, move up to attack it there.
You're gonna hold your attack till after they has a chance to react, or are we just in battle? Like,
Yeah, I guess I don't know what.
Oh no, that dexterity save was for you. Part of why I had you do that is the investigation was your ability to read the text. The dexterity check was an ability to recognize that the creature was moving, not your flame. And then the dexterity save was you to avoid it being able to strike at you. So you guys are starting the combat here.
okay,
So what's your thought with Venton?
Because he's not sure what effect, if he's right on the answering the riddle, what effect that would have on the creature. So he's not sure if attacking it will sort of obviate what his answer. So maybe he will. The creature's already struck out at Ansel, so I think he is going to move up. He'll move up and attack it.
A 13 will hit. So as you slice across it, you actually start to hear like a sizzle, and as you pull your blade out from this creature after cutting off this like chunk of its arm that was reaching out towards Ansel, you actually see your blade is smoking as you pull away from it, and it actually like sizzles as you continue to like pull it away, and your blade will do 1 less damage. So next round it will do -1, so I think a +4.
Yeah.
And then it will go to Ansel.
all right. Is Ansel engaged right now? I mean, there's 5 feet between us.
He was able to pull you out of its reach.
Okay, so I'm not in its reach, so I'm going to fire an arrow. So I'm going to concentrate on him with Hunter's Mark. I'm going to fire an arrow, and then because he's damaged, my Colossus will do an extra 1d8 if I'm lucky enough to hit. Does that all make sense?
9 will hit. That arrow will be destroyed, but you can roll your normal damage and a d6 and a d8.
Great, 17.
The creature is going to strike out towards Benton. With a 15 to hit will be a miss. 2 of the kobolds are going to run away, and they will be screaming as they do so. The other 4 kobolds are going to pull out rocks and sling them at this creature. 2 of them are going to crit, the other 2 miss.
And it seems like it was worth 6 gold pieces then.
Oh, and you know what they have advantage? Another crit. Fuck, wasting those on helping you. So 23 more damage from the rocks. And then it is going to go to Vanton.
Okay, so my sword's already kind of damaged. Can I drop the sword, pick up the torch that I've dropped behind me, and attack with that?
You most certainly can.
All right, I think that's what I do, because I don't want to, I don't want to have my weapon get any more damage than it already is. So that'd just be a straight d20 roll for that attack with a torch.
I think plus your dexterity, so you can do d20 plus 3 to hit. It's just no proficiency.
Okay, so my dex is +2, so
oh, wait,
it'd be
my bad. Yeah,
17,
I was looking at
guess.
Ansel's sheet right there. So you could do your strength, though. It's still +3. So an 18. An 18 hits.
Okay, and that's
It's 1 damage plus you can do 2d4 fire damage.
okay, so 6 altogether.
So as you stab it in, it doesn't seem that affected by the burning. It almost starts to put out the fire, but it seems to take a little bit of damage, perhaps. And then it will go to Ansel.
Who's going to sling another arrow at it?
16 hits. And then what? The Colossus is just once per combat? Its turn?
Let me check. I think it was turn, but I want to check. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, the creature takes an extra 1d8 damage if it's below its HP maximum. So that's awesome. Makes me wonder why I'm playing a cleric.
Thanks. That's what that's another 22 damage.
Yeah. Well, good. I felt like you were doing all the work, so this is good.
So that arrow as well will get consumed by this creature. It's... I don't know how to describe an ooze getting fucked up, but it is definitely fucked up. It is thoroughly spacious in its non-oozitude. I don't really know how you damage an ooze other than it like breaks apart into other areas, hence the spacious.
It's just like a little more snotty than gelatin.
Going to move out, and it is going to strike out at Ansel with a 22 to hit.
That hits.
What kind of armor do you wear?
Leather.
Oh, very lucky. Should have tried to hit Benton again. Although this may be less lucky. Alright, so I don't think it matters what kind of damage it does, but it's going to do 6 bludgeoning and then 6 acid damage as it strikes out at you. So 12 total.
Does acid damage go on in the next turn?
No. The main effect of this acid is actually if you have metal armor, it starts to consume it in the same way it started to consume his sword.
Understood.
But the leather armor, like I feel like studded leather armor would become leather armor, and then it wouldn't be like affected. It would lose that like 1 AC, I think is the difference between them. But that's otherwise it. And then this thing's pretty well fucked up here, so I can either attack it with the kobolds, or the two of you can narrate to me how you kill this thing.
I'm just gonna. Well, my torch doesn't seem to be doing too much damage to it, but I'm just gonna keep trying to set it on fire. I mean, Ansel's arrows seem to be doing most of the work.
Yeah, I think it has like less than 5 hit points left, so you can roll another torch attack. It should be nearly enough. I think you need to do... Well, no, it's 8 damage. You would have to do max damage with the actual fire damage to hurt it.
And I can't attack it with an arrow now that it's in range, because I'll get an attack of opportunity. So,
I mean, I could. Yeah, so I would only be dealing it.
Yeah, so for what it's worth, the kobolds could get the kill with their stones as they strike out at it, and that'll be enough that it removes it. So you can kind of burn the last bit of it as they strike into it with their stone slings, and this creature kind of just like seeps into the earth as it seems to almost separate from itself.
So the ooze was covering the gargoyle.
Yep.
As like a second skin.
As you start to look at the gargoyle now, it appears to be a more traditional stone that seems to be like a granite, maybe a marble. It seems to be some sort of I can't think of what kind of stone that is, where it's like old lava, where it's like an actual like natural cement where the stone was made.
Basalt.
I feel like that sounds right. Ignatius was what was coming to mind, but I felt like that was the wrong kind.
That's like a basalt is an igneous stone.
All right,
it's a type made by fire.
Right. Yep, sounds good to me. So,
does anyone play Minecraft with their kids? No.
Oh. Yeah, well, I thought Minecraft was only for terrorists.
There's a lot of mods that my 12-year-old son has been involved in that has a lot of kinds of stone in it. Anyway,
I've seen some pretty wicked dungeons created by people in Minecraft and then basically used in D&D. That cracks me up. It's essentially cool. Like a map design program. I mean, that's kind of what I understand about it, is like people spend like years creating like worlds for themselves almost. Like the Harry Potter one.
Yeah, it's super fun.
So when you said stars, you would have also heard a few of the different kobolds kind of muttering like, "What are stars? Why stars? What do you mean?" And overall, nothing really appears to have happened when you said it out loud, but you all can kind of go about through this room as you take a moment as the jelly almost like seeps into the earth at the feet of this gargoyle.
Yeah, we need to take a short rest.
Turn to Ansel, like, do you know? So, like, he'll repeat what he was able to read off of the gargoyle. I thought it was stars. Do you have any?
No, it was
ideas.
It was definitely stars. We should examine the door and see if the door will work now. Can we investigate the door again?
You most certainly can. There appear to be stars across the top of it.
See, look, there's stars on the wall now. Good job.
Okay. I'm also going to look at my now somewhat pitted longsword and just sort of shake my head. Gonna need a new one of those. Do the stars seem to be in any sort of like pattern that we can make out, or are they just is there anything unique about how they're appearing along the door?
There's like they almost like cross across the top of the arch where there is one central star, and then there are 3 stars to each side of it for a total of 7 stars.
Hey, can we take a short rest, because I'm pretty wrecked from that acid splash. I need to spend a hit die and recuperate.
You all see the stars above the archway above you. What are your thoughts as you look at that northern wall?
So are the stars within reach? above the door, or are they sort of too high? Like I'm wondering, Vanton's wondering if they're like you have to press them or something, or just like if now that means that the door can open if he just pushes on it. But
I'm not clear. Were they there before, or have they appeared now?
I think they appeared after we said the word out loud, or at least we didn't notice them before.
I would say that it's more than likely that they either appeared or that you didn't notice them, but at very least, now that you've read the riddle, you perceive them. So you may not recognize which it was, but it is on some level a like I don't know, like a reminder that you got the riddle correct, that you are now seeing these stars over the archway. At very least, the top star would be out of reach. It's probably about 10 feet above the ground at the peak of the arch. Maybe some of the lower stars out towards the sides are within reach, but that's probably about where they sit. You might be able to reach like 5 or 6 of the stars, or I guess 4 or 6 of the stars.
I was just thinking that the light is the trigger in the riddle, so maybe the light needs to be inverted from where it is to open the door.
So, for what it's worth, assuming at some point you would say stars next to the door, you would start to see as they light up. That's the solution. But saying stars was the right thing to do, you were just too far away.
Okay. Yeah, cool. I think, once he got close, he would have just, repeated it.
Yeah, I didn't want to make that the type of thing that you could just run away. Open up a large corridor to the north of you all. There is, again, back into very rough-hewn stone. This is clearly a cave that appears to have been found. Perhaps the reason that whoever made this place made it. But you see a stairway that's 5 or 10 feet down. It's pretty steep. The stairs are uneven, like widths. It's a very dangerous stairway. I don't know if anybody knows anything about stairs, but having odd-shaped stairs is extremely dangerous and a great way to fall and break your neck.
Well, let's hurry down those then, don't you think?
I'd like to maybe not hurry so much. Just make sure we have plenty of light while we're navigating down these stairs.
We'll go quite
almost like kind of go like kind of almost like crawl down them, like I'm thinking of the Family Guy episode where they get the new stairs put in and Peter tries to like very carefully and then as soon as he steps on a stair he just slips and falls the whole way down.
Do our friends the kobolds want to come with us? There's probably some shinies down there.
Well, we lost the other ones who you scared away with that crazy thing that you were doing. But we'll still help you. You did pay us, so we'll kind of stick to that. But if you guys find the dragon, remember, you're going to help us find that dragon, and you're going to help us. You're going to return the dragon, right? Right?
Don't you think the dragon would be down these stairs in the cave? If it was anywhere?
I feel like maybe you don't understand dragons.
No, that's probably true.
They've got wings. They like to fly. Like we keep our dragon in like our home that's underground, but like they kind of like to be outside of the ground. Well, except for blue dragons, but we have a white dragon. Have you ever met a white dragon?
No, I'm looking forward to meeting yours when we find it, though.
Well, they like kobolds more than they like humans, but you kind of paid us, so it might be best in your interest not to meet the dragon, but maybe one day.
Perhaps you can tell it we're friends of you.
You clearly have never met a dragon. They like us, and they're just as likely to eat us.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I guess.
We'll run away from that situation when it happens.
Wait, do you know the bridge that it's behind? If you know where our dragon is, you should tell us.
It's down the stairs.
Hey,
Make a deception check.
There's a bridge down the stairs with our dragon. Let's go, guys.
Ansel just looks at Vanton. A little shrug.
I'll just shrug back. I don't think they understand idioms.
That's probably to our advantage, actually. They can see in the dark, so.
So they start to move forward, a little bit more gusto in their step, as they seem pretty excited to find their dragon. They seem to be kind of glancing around real quick, like looking for this bridge.
Okay, is there any sort of dexterity check to get down those stairs, or we can, as long as we move carefully, we're
Oh,
okay?
no, that was purely just a descriptive way of describing the stairs.
Got it.
I think of those things as part of why I make a good DM, that I actually read so much stupid, useless shit as you come across how dangerous it once was when stairs were very random distances and how often people would break their necks because, like, our brains like don't do well on stairs like that, and how important it is for stairs to be very uniform. And I feel like that's part of where you get like a lot of building codes, like have a pretty uniform stair width.
Yeah, it's the tread height. Like if the tread height's even a quarter inch off, you could totally trip and fall. So that's a thing in construction, and people get hurt all the time.
Yeah, and that's definitely somebody who understands more of it than me. You actually know what I'm talking about.
You're totally right. You're totally right. It's a thing. It's crazy. You can feel it if you go up stairs that are not standard. You'll notice. If you don't trip, you'll notice.
Yeah, it's
your
almost
brain
like
shuts off.
that inner ear kind of feeling, like when you walk through like those like fun houses with the spinning like tube around you, like where you walk through the cylinder, how your brain feels weird having your visuals like that. Your feet feel weird when you step on like odd stairs like that.
Totally.
But that's kind of what I was getting at, is like, not that the stairs themselves are like a dangerous trap, but that it feels weird walking down them.
They're crap stairs, right?
Yes. So you all kind of progress through this room. It seems to be a large corridor, roughly where the kobolds kind of stop and started to hold. They kind of like start to tap at their ears, and you can start to hear that there's like a chanting in the air.
Is it coming from in front of us?
You can do a perception check. It's pretty much pass-fail, but if you roll low enough, you won't be able to tell. Yeah, that's enough that you can recognize that it's coming from in front of you. That as you move forward, like the Doppler effect, it's getting a little bit louder.
Do dragons chant? Is that your dragon?
Can we tell whether it's sounds like one voice or multiple voices chanting?
Roll a perception check from Vanton there. But the kobolds kind of like nod no, that's not them. We've not come this far, so it's not one of us. And I don't think you'd hear a dragon doing that. They've got much deeper voices, much slower, longer words. Yeah, you wouldn't really be able to recognize. There's maybe a sense of shit, I can't think of the word for it. Harmony. In multiple voices, but you can't necessarily like pick out different voices or recognize like how many different voices, but it's somewhat in the air that there's multiple people ahead chanting.
Okay. Maybe Vanton's gonna suggest to Ansel that maybe they go on ahead and have the kobolds hold here for now.
Okay. Like makes a quizzical look at you, like, all right, I'll follow you.
The kobolds kind of look at you weird for a second. They're like, wait, you have to pay us? Wait, did they pay us? Yeah, they paid us. Why would we go? We can stay. Yep, you guys can go ahead. That's fine. Well, oh wait, the dragon though. Are they trying to steal the dragon? You kind of see them like having this conversation before, like as you kind of move past them. And then like one of them kind of like tugs at your cloak. Are you trying to steal the dragon? I need you to make, what's your meaning in moving forward without the kobolds? What is your aim?
So essentially, I don't know, Vanton's thinking that whoever is ahead of us might be, I mean, at this point, he's guessing that it's it might be the people they're looking for ahead of them, and he's worried that if the first thing they see is kobolds, they might attack, or so he just wants to get a better look. I mean, he's not particularly intelligent, so he's not, but that's his thoughts anyway.
So now you've got persuasion. Do a persuasion check for me.
Not very persuasive.
I don't know. I think we should help you. You guys, you kind of paid us, and you told us the dragon's there. So,
Kind of looks to the other ones like,
you guys, I think we should go.
Very well.
Yeah,
I'm
go
not gonna
ahead, guys.
fight it.
That's good. Go ahead, guys.
Well, no, I mean, like, you can leave, but we're gonna go with you. We definitely don't mind you dying so we can run. But, like, if you're gonna find our dragon, if you know he's beyond this bridge, and then you're gonna cross it to get our dragon, like, we want to be at the bridge at least.
Well, stay close then. I think, so Ansel, you probably have the torch right now. I would probably have my sword and shield out.
yeah, not that it necessarily matters, but each of the actual rests, you all would have to light another torch. So I think you've burned at least 4 torches at this point.
Okay.
Good to know. Thank you.
And I started with 10, so I'm happy to just burn 4 of mine.
Yeah,
I
don't
burned.
think that-
I'm on number 2, so you could just burn 2, and I think we're good.
I don't
I
think
got-
there's any reason for you all to miss any of the consumables that you use here.
Because we have like 30 minutes.
So
Ish.
as you all progress forward, you see another row of stairs leading down through this like craggy area. There's different points where you have to squeeze through. Again, it's not so tight that you can't make it through with armor, but it is almost like spelunking, where there's different points where you have to make an active decision, like to take off your backpack and like push your backpack through and then crawl forward head first through this little area. Like, you actively can't just walk through this corridor, but you guys are able to kind of shimmy through. And as you come out on the other side, you would see 2 different figures standing kind of opposite each other around this. I can't do it while I'm holding shift, my bad. Standing opposite each other around this large dais in the ground, where it's a beautiful marble structure, and it's starting to glow with like a green haze about it.
Do the kobolds come with us?
Yep, the kobolds squeeze through without any problem. They seem much more comfortable, and almost like how they're able to like change the shape of their body to move through the stone. But they have.
And what? Sorry, go ahead.
They're still behind you all, so I move them into the room, but don't necessarily. Purely up to you guys how far you move into the room. You don't really get recognized as you step into this room. They seem to be doing their thing. One of them seems to be actively like casting a spell. The other seems to be intoning across the dais from her, but doesn't otherwise seem to be doing anything of any sort.
What do you think of that? And is that Sharwyn? Have you ever seen Sharwyn?
From this distance, can we make out anything specific about the either figure?
Inside of the green haze that the dais itself is kind of emanating out from itself, you would basically see there is a figure on the northwest who is clearly a female form, in that she has the curves of a female. She is wearing a robe and otherwise seems unarmored, whereas the other figure is much stouter, larger, wearing armor that actually glows in this green haze, as well as holding a shield, and has a you would see some sort of weapon like across his back at that point.
Vanton's gonna look back at Ansel and just be like, maybe suggest they get a little bit closer, just cautiously. Is the chanting in any language they recognize, or no?
Make an Arcana check. I actually kind of giggled at the languages you all chose. I didn't really give you any clues as for creating the characters, but you didn't choose anything that coordinated with what I was creating. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to really gather. You don't have enough knowledge of magic to understand. Probably at best, what you would know is that like war mages inside of like mercenary units, they might be speaking in common, but even when they're casting their spells, it seems almost like a foreign language to you.
Okay. Does there seem to be anything sort of like any shapes or anything that we can see within the sort of the green haze that's forming on the dais?
Make a perception check. You guys start to clear the area. You feel like on your butt as a kobold like pushes Ansel forward, and they start to push into the room.
Ever rolled so poorly for perception?
There's an odd shape, almost a female form inside of the green haze. And probably the first thing that you would think is maybe it's like mirroring her form, but it's hard to tell. It seems to be a relatively similarly like voluptuous figure, but it's not necessarily easy to pick out.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna keep inching closer.
What is Ansel doing as he kind of moves forward? What's your thoughts?
I'm opening a jar for my wife for dinner.
Oh
My thoughts. I'm going to ready an action because if they're summoning something, I'm not going to ready an action. I'm not. I'm just waiting to see what the next what they're summoning. That's what I'm concerned about. So I'm just going to move over to the side to get out of the way of the kobolds.
So this is kind of a twist on your character, because as an archer, you can ready to shoot an arrow and create the same trigger that would have you release the arrow. The benefit of readying an attack versus readying a spell is readying a spell, you throw away that spell slot. So you can like ready a cantrip is very similar to readying a like arrow. It still looks hostile to creatures that understand what you're doing, but it's not the same as like if you ready a spell that's slot level 1, you burn that slot and it's gone regardless of whether the trigger happens. So if you think to ready an action, there's not necessarily anything against it other than the outward image of what they might perceive.
Well, we're not in initiative yet, so I think I'm very suspicious, but I kind of want to stop this summoning, but I'm not sure if that's Sharwyn or not. We need to ask and announce ourselves.
So at present, it's safe to say that you do not have an arrow drawn.
No, I don't have an arrow drawn, and I'm just observing, but I'm inching away to get out of the way of the kobolds if they all start throwing rocks.
So I think about that is when you would start to gain their attention, and you see as her head kind of twists a little bit to her left as she starts to look at you all. You see a little hint of like frustration in her eyes as she sees you enter, but not necessarily anything that seems immediately hostile. And then she kind of continues on with her chant for a moment.
And this other guy that's with her is does he look like a knight?
I think it's safe for you to understand that he is a knight.
So Vanton, I think we found Sharwyn and her help.
Yeah, so maybe Vanton will nod and he'll call out Sharwyn Hucrele, trying to get her attention.
She looks back at you for a moment. You see her still wording this, like speaking the same words. You start to gather these words become a little bit more whole, and they start to fill in as she repeats them. She's now repeating them over and over, and it's clear to you. But besides looking at you, she doesn't seem to break her concentration on that idea. And then after a moment of glancing over at the name, she looks back towards the other and kind of nods, and after a moment he steps away. What would you have of my lady?
What is going on here? We were sent to find her. And you.
The Lord Protector summons you back.
Lord
Summons, you caught that, right?
Summons us. We have been sent on this mission by our Lord Protector.
And what mission is that?
We are here to... And he looks back towards the woman. Let's see. He kind of like, his gaze is like pulled away for a moment before he looks back, finishing the thought. We are here on orders of our Lord Protector. Who are you to interrupt her ritual?
Then show him the scroll.
What scroll do you have? And he approaches. I assume as you say, Vanton, you actively look at him. So he'll like approach Vanton with his hand outreached.
Yeah, Vanton has the scroll, I think.
Yeah, so we would have like a physical copy of that scroll from the beginning.
Yeah, effectively for what it's worth, each of you would have it. It's more a question of if you're willing to hand it over to him to read.
I'm not sure Vanton can even read, so yeah, of course, right?
He's not that dumb.
I'm just trying to get a rise out of you. Well, we've read it, so we don't really need a copy of it anymore, right?
You're not. Are you holding back from giving it to him, or?
I think I would. No, I think at Ansel's suggestion, I would reach into a pocket and pull out the scroll and hand it to him. And just
glances over it, and you see like him nodding as he reads it. And then after a moment, you see his disposition change. Do you know who sent you on this mission?
The Lord Protector of Neverwinter.
And yet it is not signed in his name.
Oh, because it's from the abolithic misspelled sovereignty?
Whoops.
It might not be misspelled on the scroll. I couldn't read the scroll. So, did we ever meet anybody, Vanton? I don't remember meeting anybody early on in our adventure.
Yep, definitely misspelled that.
Not being critical. I'm sorry. I was just teasing.
Oh no, I'm critical of myself because I have such terrible spelling. I actively put a lot of effort into not misspelling stuff.
Well, that's a dumb word nobody knows how to spell, so I wouldn't feel too bad about it.
So you all would be pretty familiar with part of what's weird about being a mercenary is that you're often hired by somebody who is a servant of this person who works in the honor of this person. So you are often hired by a chain of people who are not the person hiring you. But you do recognize as he kind of brings up, this is somebody who has used our name to send you here for something far different. The eldest is one of those who tends to take the throne of Neverwinter from his Lord Protector.
You're saying we're pawns. We've been used, duped.
Are you aware of what the aboliths are?
Beyond they were offered to pay us, no.
He looks back to the woman, and you see as the female form inside of this thing is getting more and more complete. It still looks very ghostly, but it is still like writhing inside of this green glow, and it's starting to appear to be a green flame. And he kind of gets her attention, and he kind of twists back to you. You are indeed a pawn, and we are perhaps in a great danger having come in contact with you. If this being has any control over you, it sees all that you have seen. It knows where we are. And perhaps Dagult is already dead. But nothing good can come from you having been sent here. What is your intention? Will you allow us to finish this? Or are you hostile to what we must finish?
And just what is this that you're trying to finish? What ritual is this?
I do not believe it is in my best interest to share any more knowledge than is necessary with you. If you are hostile to our means, I believe it is time for us to go to blows. You seem to be armed for an honorable fight, and perhaps you will live, perhaps I will live. But there is not enough for me to know that you are not a danger to my lady, and I cannot share any information that she herself would not share. She is too close to the end. Stop now to speak with you.
Can I try and sort of do an insight check to see whether he seems to be telling the truth or if he's just trying to sort of delay us while she finishes the ritual?
You can roll an insight. So you don't necessarily know much about his order, nor their actual adventuring group. You recognize him as, on some level, more or less going about his ways in an honorable fashion. He's not, from what you can tell, trying to trick you, but it doesn't necessarily make it feel any less like perhaps he's delaying you. Perhaps he is weary of what you might know. But at present, you get at least an understanding that he's telling you the truth, whether the truth is meant to postpone you or whether the truth is meant to get you to stand down and join them.
So Venton's gonna glance towards Ansel. He's really not sure what to make of all of this.
And Ansel's pulling an arrow out and putting it on his bow because he's pretty sure what to make of all of this.
So at the point that you start to draw an arrow, he will reach back to the hilt on the back, on his back, and you will hear like a snapping of metal as these latches kind of release the large like leather sheath that rests across his back as he draws a long sword.
I think we have to stop the summoning.
Maybe Venton's gonna say, like, I have no desire to fight you, but you need to tell us what's going on.
Oh no, my bad. That's combat.
Got it. Okay.
All right, Ansel. So as he reaches back to his hilt, you have the arrow knocked on your bow. What do you do?
I'm going to concentrate my hunter's mark on the caster, and I'm going to fire an arrow at her.
As the arrow starts to pass near the green glow of this dais, the arrow seems to like sink into the stone, like towards the stone dais, and it actually diverts off of the course of going towards her, and it starts to get pulled into the center, and it starts to spin around the stone dais.
Okay, thank you.
And then it will go to Vant.
All right. So it seems like kind of left no choice here. So Venton will, seeing the knight draw his sword, Venton will strike out, try to get the first blow.
20 will hit.
And I think you have to take 1 damage off of that from the effect of the ooze from before.
What was the initiative roll for our servants? Or are they too chaotic to have initiative rolls?
At present, they were not ready to jump into a fight, so they are currently kind of shocked across this. It is essentially they are essentially surprised in this round.
Got it.
So he raises this sword high above his head as he strikes down into Venton. Damn, rolling like shit. He is going to clatter the sword across the ground as he misses wide of you. We are not enemies. Stop this and release yourselves from your quest. If you serve the Lord Protector, should be working with us.
Well, I'm all for serving the Lord Protector. What about you, Vanton? I don't have any loyalty towards this elder.
You shot the arrow.
I thought we were serving the Lord Protector. That's what I always thought we were doing. I didn't shoot the arrow. I knocked the arrow because he said we couldn't resolve it. But I'm willing to take the stop if he says there's a stop. I'm up for that.
I've no desire to fight you. But again, we need to know what's going on. Need to know we can trust you. Head is swimming from all these tricks and turns.
Neither of you are taking any action on that round of combat?
I mean, I think I would just sort of hold and, after the
You can effectively
knight
take the
said
dodge
that.
action if that sounds right, but
Yeah, I think after what he said, I would be hesitant to press the attack, so I'll take the dodge action then. And as I'm saying that.
I'm going to move. I'm going to take a move action, but that's it.
that's fine. I cannot share her mission with you who may be corrupted by the aboleth. The creature has a touch on you. You are eyes for it, and it is enough that you have seen this place. Please, wait until she is finished, and at her discretion she may share what she knows. But at present, I know little else to do than to guard her in what she requires be done.
All right, Ansel is willing to wait. How about you, Vanton?
Yeah, I think he's going to sort of nod towards the knight, sort of not really enthusiastically, just sort of like he has, he kind of has no choice but to take him at his word for now, and then he'll just sort of back up towards Ansel, and sort of keeping his sort of weapon down.
So as you two kind of step back, it's probably he would almost immediately kind of return to the place that he was holding before, and regain his kind of position, rejoining the chant. And within a few moments, 6, maybe 10 seconds pass before you start to see this figure in the center of the dais becoming more and more corporeal. Let me have each of you make a perception check. Ansel, you would start to recognize that while this is clearly a female form, this is not a human, that this is an elf that seems to be like kind of coming to in this shape, and it's pretty clearly nearly complete, and it is not corporeal. It is very much a wispy form. She appears to be some sort of dead creature.
So they're summoning an undead for the Lord Protector of Neverwinter.
That's what it would appear as you kind of like watch this ritual they're nearing the completion of.
I'm rethinking the backing off the battle.
Well, this is all beyond my ken.
Well, we have to. If we wait, we may be horribly outnumbered or outpowered. But I'm for the Lord Protector. I'm not really interested in all these Neverwinter politics. I thought we were working for the boss.
Well, either whoever hired us or this one ahead of me, in front of me, is lying to us. But for what it's worth, he seems honorable to me, and I don't really know anything about who hired us. Not my place to ask questions when someone's paying me.
Well, we were sent here by order of the Lord Protector, and they're working for the Lord Protector. So,
Well, we don't actually know who sent us. They they work for the Lord Protector, but
Well, the court wizard of the Lord Protector is this woman, and we're working by order of the Lord Protector to go get her. So I don't think we're at odds with them, really.
if it was indeed the Lord Protector who sent us, this knight seems to be saying it wasn't.
I think that gives us permission to not do what the eldest aboleth wants.
After a moment, you would see as she starts to lower her hands and seems to be finishing the last few words of her chant. And this creature seems to be inside of this glowing circle about it. And she starts to step towards you, and the knight follows forth. Hello, and thank you for your patience. I understand you are here for me, and yet Sir Bradford seems to be troubled by your presence as well. I heard most of what you spoke of, but I don't understand everything across the ritual that I had to perform.
Give her the letter.
We were sent by someone purporting to work for the Lord Protector, claiming that by his orders we were to come track you down and return you to Neverwinter. But Sir Bradford, I suppose, here seems to think that we may have been led astray by whoever hired us, and that we may not have been sent by the Lord Protector at all.
So after a moment, Bradford steps over. You see as he hands that same parchment to her, kind of pulling it from his belt that would hold kind of the sheath of his sword in place across his waist, and he pulls that out and hands it to her. She reads it much quicker, and really after almost an instant, she looks towards you all. Well, this is a little bit simpler for me to test and see that you are not poisoned by the aboleth. Would you mind my checking? Are you okay with me weaving magic about your person?
I wasn't poisoned by any aboleth.
You need not do much more than touch water that it has touched to be under its control, and you would know little more than that. And it would see everything, hear everything, and be everywhere that you go.
I suppose you can check on me. That's all right.
I'm not sure I could stop you if I wanted to, but I will allow you to.
I don't intend to do you any harm, and I would ask of your own free will that you be willing or not. And if you are, I have a simple enough test to know that you are not.
And if we have been unknowingly, what then?
If you have been, then I would not share the reason that I am here, and I would not have you here while I am questioning the one that I have summoned.
Very well. Cast your magic.
So, as she steps forward across a few moments, she will begin casting different spells. Each of them are repeats of the one beforehand. First, she will cast on Ansel, and second, she will cast on Vanton. And as she tests each of you with this spell, for what it's worth, we're going to go for you were never poisoned by the aboleth. But she casts greater restoration on each of you. Curing you of what would be the power and control of this creature.
I'm sorry, so we were poisoned?
No. There's no reason for you to have actively been poisoned.
Cool.
I don't know if either of you actually have any experience with aboleths, but they are one of the coolest creatures in all of the D&D universe, and a whole fuck all of a situation if you ever do come in contact with the water of an aboleth.
No,
yeah, those are those
primordial,
older than the god creatures that are
yes, and
they live for eons and they remember everything, and they have plotting for thousands and thousands and thousands of years to take over the world again.
Yep, I was trying to find, I'm like, all right, I need somebody who would be in the power structure of Dagult Neverember to be the person who gave them this task. And I'm like, there's a fucking aboleth trying to take control of Neverwinter? Of course this is going to be the person who gave them their orders to come here. So trying to...
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know, like when I saw the abolithic sovereignty, it didn't click immediately, but then when I thought of it, I wasn't sure if like if we would even know what an aboleth was, like our characters, so I didn't want to say anything.
I think that's the right way to do it, to have like a somewhat clue of it, but more or less ignore it, because it was meant to be somewhat of a clue that you guys were not necessarily... I mean, I think by now you should probably know that I like dancing around the gray of what something is. Nothing is like morally straightforward. But yeah, I know, Larry, you're coming up on kind of the end of your time at this point. But essentially, she kind of starts to introduce you to the spirit that she summoned into this thing. It is a elf she names Vinyana. The elf has been trapped in this area in a hut consumed by the vines above this general area. And she is an ancient elf who was once betrayed by her family and has since haunted the area as a banshee. And she basically warns you all of the danger of simply hearing this creature's voice, and that at present the circle of magic is currently keeping her both in place as well as in this position and incapable of, like, traditionally vocally speaking outside of the circle. That at present Vinyana and Sharwyn have a telepathic connection directly between each other. And after having cured you of what would be the infection of the aboleth, you are safe to hang around, basically, as she questions this creature. They kind of share with you that they were sent by Dagult to try to track down a ancient text that would have been known by the elves in this area from one of the last times that they were working with some of the dwarves who ran the ancient city of Cornbahir, which humans know as Wave Echo Cavern.
Okay.
Did they have any luck finding the book?
So we're going to kind of leave it at that, where these characters here, these four, at present, have a quest further into searching out this, but you have a perhaps more concrete solution than any others before you. And as you investigate a little bit further, there is also a passage leading further into the earth that the kobolds would share with you, is a path into the Underdark.